From sales and marketing executive to now international speaker and social entrepreneur, tune in to the Activation Hour podcast as we share with friends and influencers the activation required to make an impact in sales, marketing, and the marketplace. I'm your host, Melissa D. White, the Activation Specialist, CEO, corporate trainer, and nonprofit founder. We're getting real about personal and professional moments that push us to our purpose at work and in the world. Now, let's get activated. Today's guest is Savvy founder Stephanie Oehler, who's a 19-year veteran of the multifamily industry with a focus on sales management, training, leasing, property management, performance management, and marketing. She loves developing talent, and she's excellent at it while she's energizing individuals and teams to succeed. Listen, this woman is a busy woman on the move, and she's also published as a thought influencer and leader in the multifamily industry by publishing in AMA News, Rent and Retain magazine, and on Multifamily Insider. She's spoken at multifamily brainstorming and at various entrepreneur events. She's even been a guest on an industry celebrity podcast, Trade Show Makeover, and TLD podcasts. I can't say this about anybody else I know, but she's even incredibly graced the stage of The Price is Right. This is going to be a pretty funny story. Look, she's not only dedicated to the industry, but spends her time volunteering to teach the NALP designation, which is for National Apartment Leasing Professionals, and served as the inaugural president of the board of the Arizona chapter of the Kent State University Alumni Association. She's also now the regional vice president of sales at Leonardo 247, which is a performance management software and property management technology company. She's incredibly passionate about reading, writing, traveling, and especially her beautiful family, her husband Josh, and their 3 daughters, Maddie, Melanie, and Mia. Stephanie's style is pretty impeccable, and she's leading the way with humor and heart. Welcome, my girl and my friend, Stephanie Oehler.
Hey, Melissa.
Hey, Stephanie, how are you?
I am fantastic.
It's so exciting to hear your voice outside of Instagram and Facebook and all of that stuff. So how are you? What's going on?
I agree. I'm well, just working and raising kids and working on passion projects and trying to be of service to others.
Yeah, right. Just doing it all. The life of an edupreneur.
A reformed edupreneur, but
a reformed, I don't know. I guess you could say a reformed one, but once an edupreneur, always an edupreneur. Yeah. So this true. To our listening audience, this is really a genuine friendship conversation. It's been a while since Stephanie and I have come together to have one of our just impactful, thought-provoking, moving, friend from the heart kind of conversations. And so this is truly a moment of us you kind of sitting in on a conversation among friends. That's what it has turned into. And so just to give you guys a little background, you've heard, the formal introduction in my guest bio for Stephanie. But one thing I can say true, again, from the heart about Stephanie Oehler is that she is a supporter and friend indeed. Like once she catches on to your vibe and what you're doing, she's all in. And so for that, this isn't just, me saying, hey, let me have a guest on because they're a cool influencer. But not only is she that, but just genuinely a supporter and fan of the show, which is really dope. Yes. Like that's amazing. So thank you for that, Stephanie.
Of course. I've enjoyed it immensely listening to you have your conversations. I feel like I'm behind the scenes of Melissa D. White, and I love it.
You know what? I'm so glad you said that because that's always one of my hopes. Like I want the listening audience to feel like friends at the table listening in on a conversation, because I'm incredibly blessed that I cross paths with some of the most amazing people on earth, I think. And so I get all of these inquiries or questions of people that just want to know, about my life and who influenced learn from. Well, the cool part is now they can hear, instead of me saying, "Hey, my friend Stephanie told me this," they can hear from Stephanie, right? So
Yes.
that's really, really amazing. So yeah, the topic, to guys, let me give like a full disclosure here, because we're real on the activation hour. This is our second attempt at trying to record this show, because life is messy, it's not perfect, and just as in technology, life is such the same. You don't always get to connect with people like you want, and just like
Yes.
your Wi-Fi doesn't always connect, and that's what happened last time. Like the Wi-Fi was so spotty, and the episode was so good, and I did everything I could to salvage it. So obviously it's meant to try this again. And interestingly enough, since we tried our original recording, life has happened. So I'm
Yes.
pretty sure, like literally, you guys are catching up with Stephanie, just like I'm catching up with Stephanie listening to this episode. So there you go. Uh, so yeah, since we spoke, I'm just gonna be honest with our friends and listeners here. In our bio, I clearly explained that you are the founder of Savvy. You're a national trainer. You are an influencer, and I mean, shoot, you're a celebrity. Like truly, you are
Ah!
in our industry. Because of you, because of the power and energy that you bring to the room. Like really, it's but when people bring a presence like that, it does reach that. That is true. I'm being honest with the people. But funny enough, in the intro, yeah, I read the formal bio, but I put a little glimpse of, hey, I don't have any other friends that have been on The Price is Right. Well, one other mutual acquaintance that we have, but that's a rarity in and of itself. And there's something to be said, and we'll touch on that, about what that experience teaches you about being an entrepreneur and educator and putting yourself in position for opportunities, and which is really that's a lesson, that's a life lesson. And then now newly, since like you just stepped into your another role, another hat that you wear, right? Last time we spoke,
Yes.
yeah, as the regional vice president of sales at Leonardo 247,
Yes.
which if you guys aren't familiar, it's a performance management software, so software company, technology company. So she's a tech girl. She's in sales, she's in education, and now technology, and that stuff all goes hand in hand. So Stephanie, tell us, now that it's been a few months, weeks now, I don't know, I can keep up with time well, but it's been a minute
Yes.
since you stepped into your new role, and share with us how now you balance. You say you call yourself a reforming entrepreneur. How do you balance leaving your entrepreneurial endeavor and going back into the workforce?
Well, I'm so glad that we're having this conversation, even a few months after I started back into the quote unquote real world, which that's not really fair. My edupreneur land world was just as real. Believe me, it got real
Oh
every
yeah,
single day.
yeah, it is real. It
but
is.
but this what I love about what I'm doing now is it really actually ties in very closely to the experience I gained and the passion that I had for, savvy leasing world. I love supporting the performance of people so that they can be better in their worlds, in their jobs, in their career.
Mhm.
I love to bring something to the table that can legitimately propel someone into performing better. And so that is what I was doing at Savvy Leasing. I was, sales training, consulting, speaking, and all of that. But that's also what I'm doing at Leonardo 24/7. I'm bringing this performance management software that enables, executive level management and property management to truly manage expectations better for their on-site, asset teams, and for the teams that are on site. It's performance support. It's helping
Yeah.
them manage and preserve that asset better and really elevate their performance, which is exactly what I was doing as an entrepreneur. And so
Mhm.
it dovetails so nicely. There's really a good synergy between like what my passions are and what I'm able to provide with some structure and support that comes along with being part of a tech company. So it's been good. It's been really good. And I'm still in my, same niche industry of multifamily and real estate. And so
Mm-hmm.
it feels good. It feels like a great fit. And I
Mm-hmm.
still am able to, nurture the relationships that I made, and really, that I found my people, as I call them, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
from our speaking engagements, and when we all were hanging out and brainstorming, I'm still able to nurture those relationships, because that means so much to me,
Mm-hmm.
connecting with you, and being, listening to your podcast, and like I said, kind of peeking behind the curtain of Melissa D. White. Like, I love that, and I will always make time for that. And
Oh.
even with the busy, and like I said earlier, work and raising children and volunteering, and all of those things that I put out there and do, I I won't forget the lessons I learned, being out on my own, because I was never really out on my own. I was
Mm.
in a community, uh, with other like-minded, optimistic, hopeful entrepreneurs, and I will never let that go.
Wow, man, that's rich, because you said I was out on my own, but I was never really on my own.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pin that, because I do want to come to that point. But I think, for the sake of clarity for our audience, can you define what an edupreneur is, and why you coin yourself a reformed edupreneur?
Yes, because, when I was out, running my company, I was an entrepreneur, right? I was somebody out there. I founded the company for sales training and consulting and sales coaching. And what I realized is that every entrepreneur is educating somebody on something, whether it's their new product that they're bringing to market, whether it's themselves that they're bringing to market, whatever it is, they are educating. And so I, had read this somewhere along the way, and all of the different years, and as I was exploring going out on my own back in the day, and I read, entrepreneurs are edupreneurs, and I just thought it fit so well with my mission at that time with Savvy Leasing. So it just really stuck with me. Why I'm reformed is because when you are reformed, you have changed for the better, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so those years that I spent, uh, sales training and coaching and working with all these different companies, I learned so much. I grew so much. Even though I'm out there being the one coaching and training and, speaking, I absorbed from all of my clients and all of the people I worked with so much, and I became reformed in a good way. And that is why, going back into a full-time kind of structured position as the regional vice president of sales for Leonardo, I consider myself a reformed entrepreneur. It's still there. It's still in me. Every change that happened to me, every change I initiated, it's still part of me, and I'm growing and reforming to this very day. So I hope that answers the question. That was a very long-winded
No, no,
answer.
no. It absolutely does. It absolutely does. And you explained it in a very relatable way, that, I mean, not everybody can relate to the term entrepreneur, but everybody can relate to the term educator.
Yes.
Because even those of us who think, well, I'm not a teacher, you may not call yourself a teacher, but you educate on
Yes.
some level, and no matter what you do. And even I myself, quite frankly, like, I remember last year I was nominated for an award to call me educator of the year, and I had a really
Mm.
hard time accepting that, because I'm like, I'm not an educator, but the truth of the matter is, yes, I am. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm a trainer, and i I teach, but I never fully embraced the word educate. So
Yeah.
you positioned that very well, because you said that everybody, in the marketplace, educates. It doesn't matter
Yes.
what you do, at least at the essence of it. If you're not educating, then you might want to evaluate how you're delivering.
Right.
No, seriously, you might want to evaluate how you're delivering what you do,
Right.
because education at its essence is you bringing a quality of making people better.
Yes. And isn't that what you're starting a business for as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, to make people better, to make
Yeah,
the world better.
right.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And congratulations on that award, by the way. That's
Well, it was
fantastic.
nominated. Thank you. No, it was shocking in that, like, I knew someone was nominating me, but I had no idea how it was going to fall. You know, you never know how those things are going to play
Yeah.
out. And not to digress from the topic, but it truly, I think I use that really to relate to people and saying sometimes we're called a thing and never really receive that title or that label, because it's like you don't believe that you are. If
Right.
you're listening to this podcast, you are an edupreneur, even if you're not an entrepreneur, which is the root word of edupreneur. It's the tail end of it, the preneur part. If
Right.
you're not, if you don't think that you're in that space, even, and I want you to answer this too, even as employees, edupreneurship is a mentality, not a status.
Yes.
Talk about that.
I love that. Well, I mean, as a salesperson, I'm out there educating prospective clients. I'm educating current clients on how to use our services and our product, and again, how to be better at their role. And so, yeah, I'm that reformed edupreneur in this current role. Exactly. So I love that. But yeah, even if you're not on your, quote unquote, out on your own, you are definitely educating with whatever you're doing.
Uh-huh. It's a mentality.
Yes.
And I think that's why you said reformed, because
Yes.
once you embrace that you are that thing, you now strive to perfect the thing that you are. Meaning,
Exactly.
if I know that I'm an educator, I can't remain at my same level of learning or teaching. I crave knowledge so that I give higher levels of knowledge. If I'm an edupreneur, I say edupreneur, but if I'm an entrepreneur, if I'm an entrepreneur at the root level, well, the goal is to elevate yourself in business, whether it's your operations and growing the products and services, tweaking them, adjusting them, to your market, adjusting them so based on the responses you get. So there's all, so that reforming part, I love that you kind of threw that in there,
Mm-hmm.
to say I am that thing, but I'm reforming daily to be better at
Yes.
that.
Changing for the
Even
better.
now in your new state, even now at a job.
Yeah. Changing for the better every day.
Mm-hmm.
Changing for the better every day.
Life's a project, and when you're planning the areas of your life and activating on the go, you need a tool that's going to help you plan and produce. Well, let me tell you about the Flipbook. It's like your notepad and your planner got hitched. You can use it to plan your work on the planning side and produce what you've planned on the produce side. Starting with this tool is very simple, as it follows the Vivid model from Better Life coach Gwen Witherspoon. Personally, it's definitely helped me organize every area of my life so I can stay activated on the go and be flip productivity ready. Check out more at flipproductivity.com/shop. Hey, trust me, you're going to thank me for this one.
Hello.
Hey, so welcome back to part 2. And we left off just talking about being a reformed entrepreneur. And, the funny thing about being an entrepreneur or in the workforce, life happens. And so life happened to us really quick. I'm determined. We're determined to get this episode complete.
I know.
Because that's, I'm like, the information's too good. And so through whatever glitches, we're going to get this complete. So we left off in part 1. Now you are an edupreneur literally as an entrepreneur.
Yes.
And your company with Savvy Leasing, but now taking those principles or transferring that mindset and skill set back into the workforce. Explain what that's like. What are some things you take from an edupreneur to being an employee and still an entrepreneur at the same time?
Well, I think I was talking before about how I grew and I learned so much from my customers and my clients in those few years. My company will probably be happy to know this. I am very cost conscious.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That is one thing that I really, adopted as an entrepreneur is that kind of cost consciousness and very budget minded. So bringing that to my new employers is always a good thing. But I also think that I understand.
Mm.
I understand the business. The fact of the matter is, I'm working for entrepreneurs now,
Wow.
and I
Okay.
get and I get it in a very different way. I get
Mm-hmm.
it on a kind of a molecular level.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very the details and what went into getting this company and the product off the ground, and bringing other people in now is, this is their baby, and I respect that, and I understand it,
Mm-hmm.
and I can relate to it. So that's some of the things that I've brought with me into the new world. I mean, my customers aren't always entrepreneurs, but they're all business owners, and they're all
Yeah.
running business and trying to preserve their asset, and trying to manage their human capital, so to speak. Right,
Yes.
that's a huge
Yes.
asset of theirs. And
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, I definitely relate to my customers very differently than I did before. And just even again, the founder of our company, and my chief sales and marketing officer in our company, on a whole different level than I would have prior to launching Savvy Leasing, and then moving back into a full-time sales job.
Mm.
So
You said something so pivotal. You said managing human capital. Ha. We talk about edupreneurship, and that's really what it is. You are it's a HR mechanism of being responsible with teaching, training, and cultivating your greatest asset, which is humans, the people
hmm
in the business. Elaborate on that when you say managing human capital, whatever dynamic, whether entrepreneurship or within the confines of a company.
well, I think that what I meant in that particular element
Mm-hmm.
was in our property management industry, we have property owners and business owners that are making people the stewards of their asset. Right, they're managing
Mm-hmm.
properties. And
Mm-hmm.
so as part of that, as that person at that property is the steward of that asset, that the expectations and performance does need to be managed, and that person, those individuals that are on that property and running that property, are part of that asset, are part of that value.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
that's what I mean by the human capital. So not only preserve the asset, you preserve the people, and you do have to manage that and nurture that and preserve that, the human element as well.
I'm writing down your quotables, right? So, guys, in case you don't know, like the show notes are real. I literally have notes. I wrote down preserve the asset, but preserve the people.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
And that's transferable to any business. If you
Absolutely.
have a brick and mortar storefront, if you have a digital business that's remote, whatever, there are assets to that business, whether it be tangible or intangible assets, clients, etc., whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But preserve the people. Don't lose the people
Yes.
at the cost of um adding value to the asset. What I mean when I say that, I'm thinking of businesses now, no names mentioned, and we've all seen these companies that I'm about to name. We know who they are, in any industry. Companies who may expand to increase a portfolio, but they lose the human element and the personable culture of a business. So there are companies who compromise culture for revenue,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And it becomes quantity of business over quality of service, right? So that's an issue that often isn't addressed, and you work in that space. And I'm saying this for the sake of our audience, because I'm sure whether the listener is an entrepreneur or an employee, doesn't matter. I think performance and performance measurement sometimes could be very grainy and treated in a very cold and callous way where it's very HR like, and it's like, oh my gosh, my performance management. How do you, whether an entrepreneur or in whatever element, how do you make performance management a way to preserve people, like you said?
Well, that is, I mean, there is so many moving parts, but at the end
Mm,
of the day, people want to perform at optimal levels. People want to do their best job. They want to
mm-hmm,
feel fulfilled, right? So we have to give them the tools to do that, whatever that might be. Maybe it's, coaching, maybe it's training, maybe it's just truly, like I said, managing expectations and really making sure that they understand what needs to be done on a
mm-hmm.
on a daily basis, and giving them the power to do it and to execute it, and uh, they want to fulfill those responsibilities. People don't typically want to fail you.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to fail in their job. And people always say, and you hear it all the time, that your human capital, it doesn't quit their job, they quit their manager.
Yeah.
And so when we're preserving human capital and we're preserving that asset, look to the management level as well. And
Mm-hmm.
what can we do, what tools do they need in order to preserve that asset.
That's so honest. I think oftentimes perception of teams, particularly if there's, if you're at a place in business or if you work for a business or company that has an HR department, in HR policies and procedures, as you should, if you're listening to this and you're an entrepreneur, you need some of those policies in place, whether you're working with employees, contractors, or even for yourself. Like, I think it's just a good checks and balance.
Yes.
But oftentimes, though, when performance management topics come up, because they are HR topics, it's almost like it's perceived as I'm trying to catch you doing something wrong
Oh, yeah.
versus, yeah, you know where I'm going with that.
I
It's
do.
it's 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 the perception of, oh my gosh, they're trying to, it's they're looking for me to do something wrong. They're looking for a reason to push me out. How do you shift that culture? Um, as entrepreneurs, get it? Because entrepreneur place, and I'm gonna say the root word of entrepreneur is educator. Remember,
Right.
as educators and trainers, there's a responsibility. We have to shift that culture from looking for what you do wrong versus celebrating what you do right. Explain how that happens. How do you shift the culture of performance management as an entrepreneur?
Oh my
I
goodness.
know,
So
right?
that is, yeah, another amazing question with a lot of depth to it. Uh, you know, it's not, gosh, nobody wants you to fail either. Just like you don't want to fail. Nobody wants you to fail.
Mm-hmm.
We are all in this together, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so if we can really bring an understanding home that the management of performance, that these checks and balances, that these standard operating practices and best procedures and all of that are by design to keep everything moving in the right direction, to help you optimize your performance. And if we really bring home the fact that this is for you, this is for you to be elevated, not
Mm-hmm.
for you to be in trouble, not for you to be let go, or whatever it is that you're
Mm-hmm.
fearful of.
Yeah.
These are the kind of things that we, like I said, we all want to perform at our optimal levels, but we do sometimes need um a little heavy-handedness every once in a while to
Hey,
say
well, you're
that,
right. We all need that
Stephanie,
nudge. You're
yeah, a little
right.
accountability, right? We all perform
Mm-hmm.
better with some appropriate accountability. Stephanie, this is what I'm expecting from you, and this is for you to perform at your optimal levels. And then when things aren't going as planned, or things are going as planned, I would expect to have another conversation like, hey, great job, this is where we're at, you've performed as expected or exceeded our expectations. And that's what I want. I want to hear that. Or on the flip side, this is where we can improve, this is where things could go better. And I also need to hear that. So I think that that's a pretty nuanced question. But
Mm-hmm.
if we break it down to the fact that those types of things are intended and by design to make you better, at the end, at the end of the day, I think that that's what needs to be communicated. And sometimes it's not communicated, and sometimes it is delivered maybe not in the most appropriate fashion, and the message gets lost, and you
Mm-hmm.
only ever hear like performance reviews that are only once a year. Things like that just need to go
Yeah,
away. I can't hear one
I
time a year
agree.
a laundry list of things I didn't do well. You've got to be managing that throughout the year. My performance,
Mm-hmm.
those discussions should happen a lot more frequently. You know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
so that's why people get fearful, I think, of accountability tools and and that sort of thing, because
Mm-hmm.
they're so kind of used to an environment where, you know, they sit down one time and get, maybe they get a raise, maybe they don't get a raise, or they have like a lot of feedback given to them all in one fell swoop, and we can do better than that, as educators, edupreneurs, as business owners, as management. Absolutely.
I'm listening to you, and we're talking about dispelling some of the negative connotations around education, training, development, professional
Hmm.
development. And I, again, in my notes, this is good stuff. It's that you said define appropriate accountability. And oh man, that's so rich what you said about like it's almost like death to the annual review. Like
Yes.
because so much a year, and this is going to be a very subjective question. I would love
Shoot. Melissa.
if I could say, hey, what's the impact of employee performance when the employee has meaningful, purposeful work outs or meaningful, purposeful endeavors outside of work, that helps them be a happier, effective, present employee at work. I would be very interested to see, hey, because again, that's really the purpose of this show, finding purpose at work and in the
Yes.
world, right?
Yes.
Well, it's like on a micro level, how can we quantify or measure the impact of purpose outside of work that spills over into effectiveness within the corporate work or the real employee level? Lots of that.
Well, you and I mean, this is our personal conversation, right? That we're
Yeah, yeah,
recording.
yeah,
And
yeah.
you and I are 100% on the same page with believing that the corporate environment, the business world needs to embrace some of the passions that their human capital, their employees bring into the company. So, giving the opportunity for them to take, paid time off to go volunteer, even if that volunteering is at a traditional venue, packing food and lunches, or what have you, for underprivileged children, or a vulnerable population, or if it's that person going and volunteering at their children's school and giving back to their very local community as well. I think that we as employers, we need to embrace that, and that part of our employees' passions, and that will trickle into their daily performance. That fulfillment of purpose
Mm-hmm.
doesn't always happen at work.
Mm-hmm. No, it doesn't.
As you
It doesn't.
know, and as
Mm-hmm. That's a
you
fragment of it. It's
it
literally
is.
a fraction of who we. It's the greater sum of our time, but it's a fraction of who we are.
It is. And it's a Venn diagram, right? There's an overlap,
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
right? There's an overlap. My purpose falls somewhere in an overlap between my work, my home, my family, my independent studies,
Yeah.
my personal development. There
Right.
really is an overlap there. The problem comes when there isn't, when you're not allowed to overlap that, when work is a totally separate silo.
Mm. So does that mean we should no longer work in silos, but find the blend?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Wow. Just like entrepreneurship is a blend.
It really is. We're not solopreneurs. We
It is.
really are
Yeah.
community.
Yeah.
But yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
Wow, that's
okay. Oh my
powerful.
gosh. We could do this for another hour, but
no, yeah, I think this is good stuff, and I'm so glad, guys, that you tuned in on really a conversation that has moved me personally to continue to inspire others. My hope, and that in listening to this, we find ways again to offer appropriate accountability, that we find ways to inspire and educate in every endeavor of life, whatever you're doing. Find the educator in you. Let
yes,
the educator show up, so that you forge meaningful, resourceful relationships and no longer treat people transactionally, right? And that's
absolutely.
really
I
what entrepreneurship
love
is
that.
about. Yeah, it's
Love it.
about relationship and not transactions. It's really the essence of entrepreneurship. Any final thoughts for our audience, Stephanie?
I think my final thought would be we're all in this together. And the more that we consider that in our everyday life, my worst days are the days I haven't been of service to somebody else. The days that
Oh,
I'm at my darkest, or I'm having the most trouble functioning or focusing, once I realize that those are the days that I haven't been of service to others, it kind of snaps me back into focus. And I remember we're all in this together.
wow. You brought me, that statement of my worst days was when I was not of service to others snapped me back to a moment in time, like really quickly. You ever have
Mm-hmm.
somebody say something that takes you back to a place? You took me
Yeah.
back to a place when I was right at the crossroads between starting righting our wrongs and then kind of just thinking about the activation hour.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget that moment when I realized, like, real success didn't come for me until I served others. Like, I wasn't seeing any marginal level of success for real until what I did was no longer self-serving, but serving of others. And then I began to enjoy it more too.
Yes. We
I
do
had
feel
so much
better.
fun. You feel better.
You do.
And while serving others around you. This is great. Well,
Yeah.
Stephanie, how can our audience stay connected with you and in any upcoming projects we need to know
Yeah.
about? Support you.
Well, my main world now is, of course, Leonardo 247, 24/7.
Mm,
And I also have a training coming up, or it's like a speaking gig with the AMA, the Arizona Multi Housing Association, in July. I'll have to get
awesome.
the date for you guys on that one.
Yeah.
I am co-hosting a couple of the webinar Wednesdays through Multifamily Insiders, one in June and one
Yay!
in December. Yeah,
My favorite.
I'm not the main speaker. I am just the facilitator, like the hostess with the mostest for those, to kind of keep things moving along as far as what they need on attendee questions and all
Yeah,
of that good,
yeah,
things
moderating.
like,
I
yeah,
see you
moderating. That's
excelling
that's
that
a better
space.
word.
That's
It's a
amazing.
more precise word. And I'm going to be at the NAA, the National Apartment Association. We are exhibiting, and so around, kind of around town. I am on, social media, at Twitter at Stephanie Oehler, and on LinkedIn at Stephanie Smith Oehler. And I love both of those mediums very much, and I'm super, super responsive. So
Absolutely.
if you want to connect, then we will be connected, and I will see what I can do to be a resource for you and how I can support you.
Amazing. Well, friends and family, thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode about entrepreneurship with the savvy and fabulous Stephanie Oehler. You can catch her contact information in my show notes, as well as some of my favorite talking points from this week's episode. Again, you've been listening to the Activation Hour. I'm your girl, Melissa D., your host for finding purpose at work and in the world. You can learn more about the Activation Hour at theactivationhour.com, where we give you real life activation for sales, marketing, media, and training to take your business to the next level. Guys, you're awesome. Thank you for tuning in. Do me a favor, put a review, post a comment, and share this with a friend. If you do that, I'll love you right back. Love your family. Have a great one. Bye bye. Are you a speaker who's ready to rock the stage with an impactful message that leaves an impression on your audience? Or even a thought leader or influencer that wants to really nail your next media appearance? Hey, listen, I've been there. After years of experience with media coaches, trainers, and speaking coaches from around the world, I've put together my own package to help you cultivate your message and activate your voice with my speaker and media coaching. It's a 3-part coaching session with me, Melissa D. White, to help you own your voice and rock the crowd and getting your message to the masses. In this 3-part training, I'll offer step 1 of discovery and honing in your message and really fine-tuning your story. Step 2 of strategy on how you're going to use the speaking engagement or media platform to really propel your business. And step 3, an assessment of your speech, delivery, and follow-up plan for what you do when the interview or speaking engagement is over. I'm here to help. So get booked today for your free 30-minute consultation and sign up for the speaker and media coaching sessions. Let's get you activated.